Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Pop Culture Warrior. Oh, my goodness. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Oh, this is going to be a fun one. So, my guest tonight is an incredible actor, director, and playwright. He's originally from the great state of Michigan. And you might know him as James on Narcos, or as Billy Chambers on Scandal, or maybe it's Tom Bradshaw on the Carrie Diaries. But around these parts, we know him as one of the most terrifying villains of the entire CW's Arrowverse. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to our terrifying guest, the incredible, the Reverse Flash himself, Mr. Matt Letscher, everybody. Terrifying,
I know,
striking
really.
fear in our hearts. I was just telling Matt on the side, I was like, I don't know why, but I was bracing myself to face off against the Reverse Flash. Like I was, this is a weird thing where obviously you are an actor, you're a gentleman, you're a nice guy, but I was just steeling myself for that. I don't know why. Do you get that a
Yeah,
lot?
well, it's weird. I think I actually do get that a lot. What I get from people is kind of like, "Wow, you're so." I won't say everybody says I'm so nice, but it's like I'm expecting something else, and don't hold your hand up at me. Don't It's very. There's certainly like some sort of intimidation factor that role brings that people when they approach me are waiting for, and
Oh
I don't
man.
have it. I don't have it.
You put it all on the screen. You don't carry that, in
Try
life.
to. I
Um,
try to.
so our first question's always the same for every guest, regardless of where their background, where they're coming from. What is your connection to the military?
Uh, there's a bunch of people in my circle who were in the military and are in the military still. I've got a couple of cousins who are both in the Navy. They served right after college, and I got two of my best friends from high school were both in the Navy as well. One ended up flying S3s all over the country. He was, down in San Diego and up on Whidbey, and now he's in Norfolk, and he's about to retire there. Finally, he's a lifer.
Mm.
Um, just great guy, Rich Lickfold, and then another buddy of mine from high school was fighting CB. He joined the CBs for 6 months, and then had 6 years of reserve after that. And
Yes.
that was one of those instances where he was a guy coming out of high school that maybe needed a little more direction,
Right.
and he'd own up to that. And the military, I think, served a great role for him in that way.
Mm.
So yeah, some family who are still in, some who are out, people who have had all kinds of different experiences in it, and so grateful for their service, and
Outstanding.
everyone's service.
That's so cool, man. Well, you thank them for their service for us, and
Will
um,
do.
I will. You're a dad. You're a father of two. This
Yeah.
was this was just Father's Day weekend. You have a good Father's Day? Did you get a good one?
I I had a great Father's Day. I didn't spend it with either of my children.
The best kind
They're
of Father's Day.
Yeah, they're older now. They're like they're one's working up in the Pacific Northwest. The other one is on a summer educational trip. So they weren't here, and so it was great actually. My wife and I got up, got some coffee, got some donuts, which are a big no-no, but on Father's Day, why not? And it was pretty chill, pretty great. Yeah,
Nice,
yeah.
nice.
Fatherhood is one of those things that just feels like one of the best decisions I ever made, even though I had really nothing to do with either of them turning out to be good or smart or cool or anything.
Oh, I'm sure that's not the case at all. So let's get to know you a little bit better. I know you're from Michigan, attended the University of Michigan, received your bachelor's in theater.
Hmm.
Um, what do you think? What's the highlight of Michigan, right? If you're selling Michigan on our audience, right? What do people need to check out? What do people need to know about Michigan?
Um, well, the first thing that comes to mind is northern Michigan. I mean, the Great Lakes are the defining feature of the region and of the state for sure. And up in northern Michigan, along the top part of the Mitten or up in the UP there, is some of the most beautiful country. I mean, in terms of like lakefront, lake life kind of property, Michigan is one of those places where people from all over the Midwest go to northern Michigan to vacation and spend time. And my grandmother lived up there when I was young. I spent a lot of time up in Frankfort, Michigan, which is a beautiful old shipping town actually up there. And it yeah, I would say it's natural beauty is the first thing I think of. And then the second thing I think of is the Michigan Wolverines. Uh, I went to school there. Ann Arbor's a great town. I don't need to tell anybody that; they all know that. But that was a pretty defining experience for me going to school there.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. Scott
Yeah.
says, Scott in the chats, he says hockey. Hockey's the go-to. So
Oh man,
there you go.
they're always there. And we finally beat Ohio State this year, which was just an absolutely transcendent experience for me.
That's awesome.
After so many years of losing to those guys.
Yeah. And guys, we have a bunch of people watching. If you have questions for the amazing Matt, just let us know and or put them in the chats and we'll get to them as we can. What else? So I'm curious. I read an interview with you about you, and you said that you were kind of going about your way. You were kind of wrapping up kind of youth sports, and that's where you kind of got into acting and the theatrics of it, and that it was actually kind of an ultimatum from your parents. I don't know. Is it? Can we talk about that? Where were you like as a kid that they had to drop this on you?
Well, I don't think I wasn't a bad kid, but I was doing some bad things. Um, yeah, I hit a spot where I wasn't really good enough to continue further into the playing the sports that I liked anyway, and I was just making some poor choices recreationally speaking, and got myself into a little bit of trouble. And I just had too much time on my hands, and they didn't tell me to do anything in particular. They just said, as I remember it, you find something to do with your time, or we'll find something for you. And um, I already had the idea that I might audition for the school play. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. I'd never acted growing up. I was actually a pretty shy kid, pretty introverted. Um, but I had some faint idea in the back of my head that I might be good at it. I don't know why. And I went and I auditioned for this Woody Allen play, which for a 16-year-old Roman Catholic kid from the Midwest to be playing Woody Allen in a play was a bit of a stretch, maybe. But I went. I'll never forget the audition. I went in there and I. It's one of those things where I was up on stage, I was reading with someone else who was off stage, and I just sort of felt like I know what to do. Like I actually know what I'm supposed to do here. And I remember everything kind of locking in. I remember hearing all the laughter out in the house, in the theater from the director and other people watching the audition. And I'll never forget that feeling of just like, okay, I've got something. Like I never would have in a million years thought I'd be a professional actor, but I knew what to do instinctively, and that's a lot of the battle, for an actor. It's just that you either have that kind of understanding or you don't. It's hard to teach that.
Yeah.
But yeah. It was very. I can still see it. I can see it all. It was changed my life right there.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Hey, by no means are we anywhere near the same page. But like I did some high school musicals, right? I did some acting, some things, and
Yeah.
I definitely remember that feeling. I was a bit introverted myself as well, and I remember like the lights coming, the laughter. You don't really see anybody, but you just hear this
Yeah.
laughter and you feel that wave of energy coming off the audience. It's an
Mhm.
incredible feeling. So
That's
I can
great.
I can relate. I can me and
Yeah.
this guy we know.
Yeah. All right. But basically the same person is what
Basically
you're
the
saying.
same. Basically the
Okay.
same. A
Yeah.
couple choices different. That's all. Um, so obviously this is a show about pop culture and nerd culture and things we geek out about and movies and TV. Obviously, all these things. where is your geekdom at, right? What gets you fired up? I mean, history, music, books, any shows, games? Where's your geek flag fly?
Um, my geek flag, I would say, I mean, sports have always been such a big part of my life, and it was such a big part of my family's life growing up that, like, on the geek side of things, I'm a pretty major geek when it comes to fantasy football, I have to admit.
All right.
And I had a real problem with it for a while there. It was, far too many leagues and far too little time. But it's just, I love there's nothing more that I love than like waking up on a Sunday morning with a cup of coffee and just digging into the numbers, whatever those numbers might be, just
Mhm.
useless, pointless, wasted energy. But there's something about trying to figure out that puzzle every week that I just love, man. I just love it. It's weird.
No,
Uh,
I 100% agree. Absolutely couldn't. Oh man, couldn't live my life without some fantasy football. So see, celebrities, they're just like us, you know.
Right, right.
What things are you passionate? Like, what charities are you passionate about? Are there any causes that are near and dear to your heart that you want more attention to get drawn to?
Well, there's one in particular, and I actually I did a little mini fundraiser for it this year, and that's Chef Jose Andres's World Central Kitchen. I don't know if you're familiar, you
Nope.
are. I mean, they just do incredible work when it comes to food security in very precarious places, either I mean, the work they're doing in Ukraine to feed people. They partner with, local restaurants on the ground in all these areas, places where you've had natural disasters, where there is a real chance for people to go hungry for an extended period of time. And that's the one thing you can't have happen in those kinds of scenarios. So, really, the guy is just created an incredible organization, and they do great work all over the world. They respond so quickly to these things, and have made just a huge difference in so many families' lives and children's lives across the world who are in real trouble. So, that's the first thing I'd put out there, and then we also are a big we're a big national parks family. Growing up, lots of road trips, lots of Griswold road trips across the country to all kinds of different national parks. So we contribute to the Yosemite Fund and some other things that support our national parks.
That's awesome. That's so great
Yeah,
to hear. We'll tag. We'll leave links so people can check out those great things that they're talking about and let
thank
them
you.
learn a little bit about it too.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's so cool. But let's dive a little bit into your acting career, because my
Okay.
goodness, sir, you've I mean,
I'm a
not
lot
to
older. I'm
not to,
yeah.
like not to start counting rings on the trunk here, but you got quite a resume. You got quite a resume. You've done some things. It was a joy getting to look back, because I was able to pick out so many things that I recall watching or loving, and like, oh my god, I didn't realize you were in that, and I didn't pick up on that, and for different reasons and whatnot. But
Mhm.
your first role, right? I mean, this is my. I grew up on it. Saved by the Bell. I mean, the college years.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to do an episode of that, and I'm curious. That's your first role, and I mean, it's by no
Mhm.
means a small, a small show. It's got a pretty big following. I mean, do you remember that experience? Do you remember, what was going through your head, or what that experience was like?
Well, I had seen the daytime show, and I did, Saved by the Bell the college years,
Right.
so that was primetime television, and, it was, a traditional sitcom, which I had never done, but it's kinda like doing theater. There's a live audience, and they're capturing all the action on a large stage from 3 different directions, and, um, but I what I was not prepared for was the, the massive response that those guys get from their audiences back then, back in the day,
Sure.
Mario and all those guys. So you'd walk out and you're just hit by this wave of screaming, and uh, it was like, you know, how I imagine it must have been to be a Beatle, I guess, or something like that. You know, it's just a very powerful, visceral experience. And I played this like, you know, douchey fraternity president that my
Right.
brothers still love to make fun of me for to this day. And um, but it was a great night for that reason alone. I was sort of exposed to this very passionate wing of, you know, youth pop culture at that time, and also got to understand that it was a lot like theater, you know, that particular medium. And I ended up going on to do a lot of sitcoms after that, which that was instructive for. But you know, and the thing that actually struck me then, and still I think about now, is how nice all those guys were. You know, I mean, they're very young, obviously hugely popular then, but Mario and Mark Paul and everybody. I just remember everybody being so nice to me, and I sort of filed that away. You know, it's like it's important. You know,
Yeah.
somebody visits your set, you need to show them the welcome mat and kindness. You know,
You don't
and
realize what it means to someone until you yourself are experiencing it, and they go, "Oh, okay,
exactly,
that
yeah,
does."
yeah, yeah. It's intimidating, you know,
Mm,
and that was my like I said, that was my first gig, so that made a big difference.
very cool. Do you have a memory of like the first time seeing yourself on TV or seeing yourself on the big screen? What was that like? Was it scary, intimidating? What was that like?
Um, it was. I mean, I'm trying to think if I have a memory of seeing myself on TV for the first time. Oddly, I don't. I don't know. I don't remember watching that first television episode. I do remember my first big feature,
Mhm.
which was a movie called The Mask of Zorro,
Oh yeah.
uh, with and it was with my one of my heroes, Anthony Hopkins, and one of the great leading men, Antonio Banderas, and it was Catherine Zeta-Jones's first big movie in the States. It was swords and horses and all this great stuff. And I remember going to the premiere for that movie um, with my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and just thinking, man, all right, this is it. You know, this is exactly what you dreamed about, was doing something like this, and it turned out well. And I just I remember everything about that night. Um, it was that it was that, and I've done a lot of theater too, lots of theater over the years. And my first Broadway show was a brand new Neil Simon play, and we had toured it for 8 months before we got to Broadway. But the Broadway opening of a Neil Simon play was again one of those things that I just feel like I can see in crystal clear detail. You know, every moment of it. Um, those two things are probably the most significant in my memory in terms of seeing them, remembering them, you know, experiencing them again. They were pretty special.
I would imagine so. I mean, that is pretty. I remember the Mask of Zorro. I mean, I remember backflipping off couches and putting the hood and the mask and the flailing the sword and thinking that I was the next Zorro. I was the next thing. So
Yeah.
I absolutely adore that movie and just hated your character. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
and
this
I mean that in the best way possible. Absolutely hated him so much. Was it Captain Love? Oh man.
yeah,
Just
Captain Love.
just
I
the
had somebody come
worst.
up to me recently, really just a couple of weeks ago, somebody come up to me and asked me if I was in that movie, and I said, "Yeah," and this was a guy who was probably in his 30s, you know, and so at that time, he was a child, you know, when he saw this movie, and he said, "You scared me so much. It sort of that character defines my fear of," I think he said, authority figures, or
Mm.
like dangerous authority figures or something like that. He said, "I'm not kidding. I think about him all the time. He scared the hell out of me when I was a kid." I was like, "I'm glad I could be of service. That's great."
I mean, I always before I started interviewing actors and kind of taking a look behind the curtain, I always had this thing of like, well, who would want to be the villain, right? Like everybody wants to be the hero and loved and adored, but I as I've talked to you guys and in your industry and learned that like this idea of if I can get a reaction, whether it's the love and adulation, or whether it's I hated him and I wanted to boo him and I wanted to spit on him and get all this, you as long as you connect in that way, is that truly what matters to you? Is that what's most important to you?
Um, yeah, absolutely. You want to, you know, you want to connect with an audience, obviously, and it's not even so much. I want to be a part of a story, the larger picture that really has an impact on an audience, and I don't just mean like, they learn something or something like that, but it connects with you viscerally, emotionally, on sort of like a subconscious level. And I think that movie was one of those. It was an old style movie that did that, and those like evil characters are great to play because you can do whatever you want. Everything you do is in service of your goal, and there's no wrong choice really, unless it takes you farther away from your goal. A good guy is hemmed in by
Mhm.
rules, laws, doing the right thing, all that stuff. And that's the trope that all of these superhero movies play off of all the time is, the bad guy has no boundaries. The good guy does have boundaries, has his kryptonite, whatever it is. And you, that's the thing. That's the only thing that holds them back. And so for an actor playing somebody like the Reverse Flash or playing somebody like Captain Love and Mask of Zorro is super, super fun, because it's not how you would behave at all, but it's how we might like to behave on any given day, like, I'm feeling rageful about this or that, or life's unfair or something like that. I want to do whatever I please.
Yeah.
That's what you get with those guys. And if you're invested as an actor, it can come across as something pretty powerful for people, pretty visceral. So
Yeah, and we're jumping ahead to the flag because we're gonna get there. But like
okay.
when I see you and you do this, like just scream and yell and like the bulging and like flaring and like I go, wow, that must be so cathartic because like we don't get to do that in our day-to-day lives. I don't get to yell at the barista or yell at the like, and you just get to like you're paid to just let loose. I mean, how cathartic is that?
It's very cathartic. In fact, it wasn't until I'd been acting for a while that I realized, oh, this is part therapy for me. I mean, I don't try to like make it that obvious, but you're allowed to release stuff that you have to hang on to in polite society. You're allowed to just unload all that stuff, and no one will take you totally seriously because it's not really you; it's a character,
Yeah.
right? So
They'll pat you on the back. They'll be like,
that's
"Great
right. Yeah,
job. Great
great
job."
job. I know you were crying and screaming and kicking and biting, and it's like, yeah, I was working through all that childhood trauma for you. Um, no, but I think there is that element to it where it is sort of partly like if you're able to access that stuff that, isn't the best stuff, it
Yeah,
serves you.
absolutely. And we already have a bunch of questions, and I'm going to weave them in where they fit in the conversation. So this first one from Keith says, "Did you from?" And we're speaking about Masks of Zorro. Did you get to keep the Cav Stetson from that movie? Little.
No, I didn't keep the Stetson. That's a great idea. Jeez, I should have kept it. I got my sword. I got my saber, my cavalry saber,
Very
uh,
nice.
which was nice. I used that a lot. Um, uh, and and that was probably, I mean, there's so many great things about making that movie, but the sword master on that movie was Bob Anderson, who was Errol Flynn's last sword master. And I did all of the fights with Antonio. We never used stunt doubles for any of it. We would just rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. So that sword means a lot to me. A lot of memories for that.
Wow,
But no, not that. I should have taken all kinds of crap, man.
it
Like,
should be in a museum somewhere. There should, like that's it's movie history right
I
there.
almost bought my horse from that movie. That's where I learned how to ride a horse, and they were selling them, and I very nearly did, but I wised up just
Yeah,
in
I
time.
read you had never even ridden a horse before that role.
Nope, and you're supposed to lie, right? When a director asks you, "Have you ridden a horse before?" You're supposed to, and
Yes.
I said, I just said, "No, no, I haven't." And somehow, although getting that role was like a whole epic battle, but he let the horse thing slide.
Of all the things, why not the horse thing?
Yeah, right, right.
And for people that don't know your back, I mean, you were on, the Friends spinoff Joey, a couple episodes, Entourage, New Adventures of Old Kirstine,
Mhm.
Scandal, Boardwalk Empire, Castle, Will and Grace. I mean, like these are all, and I hear I'm cherry picking here from the list, but like, these are all like critically acclaimed shows. These are shows synonymous with huge stars, and like, do you ever look back and take a moment to kind of reflect on like, wow, I've been on shows that have not just won awards, but like changed the narrative and storytelling and changed the scape of TV. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I do think about that sometimes. I it's it's funny because once you start to work as an actor, and I was lucky enough to be able to work a lot, you know, it does just become something of a job, and the people you're working with, these famous people that, outside of the job seem magical or different, or like you said, different from us, celebrities. You realize that they're actually very, very, very much like you, and not only that, but the kind of idea of how a celebrity is or behaves is often so wrong and so counter to how these people actually are. um, so it just kind of becomes like work, you it's not that I don't appreciate the job I have. I appreciate it greatly, but um, you forget that, something like being on something like Will and Grace with one of the great ensemble casts, and a truly landmark television show, the meaning of something like that. You're just going to have fun, you're just going to make people laugh every day. So, I guess I don't reflect on it too much. If I feel like I've been in something really great, like I was in a movie called Her, I think this was 2012, 13, something like that. Spike Jonze, Joaquin Phoenix, and Amy Adams, and I got to work with all these amazing actors. And I knew that Spike Jonze was a master, but then when I got on set and started working with him, I just thought, wow, this guy's special. And so I do remember those moments where you feel like you're a small part of something, very special.
Yeah,
But you know, after a while, it's just your job,
yeah.
and it's a job you love. But it's still work.
Yeah, and I wonder too. I mean, almost kind of the nature of the beast of it is that it has to become okay. What's the next thing, right? Because unless you're you're on Friends and it's 10 seasons long, it's usually okay. There's a season here, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, whatever. But it's in
Yeah,
this industry, it always seems to be like, all right, that was great. You did that thing. What's next?
you are always going to be unemployed. You are always unemployment is always right around the corner.
So,
And I've always, like, kind of searched for that home, every actor would like to land on a show for 8 years,
mm,
or, find some franchise that they're a part of for a long time, and you realize pretty quickly that that's like winning the lottery,
mm,
kind of, sometimes it's won by people who are kind of, like, undeniable, like, it's just like they were gonna do that no matter what, and sometimes you just get lucky, and I've gotten lucky in so many ways. My brain goes numb just thinking about it. But I've I have a private nickname for myself, which is, and now I'm sharing it with the public, which is King of the Two Season Show. Because I've done, it seems like every time I get a show where I'm a regular, we run for 2 seasons and then that's it. So, I appreciate that. It's added up to about, 10 seasons of television overall. But for me anyway, like, I like the group setting. I like the problem solving. I like working together, and I always wanted to find that family that I could come back to every day and work with,
mm.
forever. And who knows, might still happen.
Yeah, and real quick, you've also, like, I look at these movies that like have changed my life, or I like that I here's the thing. I watch a lot of TV. I watch a lot of movies. That's my thing. So it's very easy to forget a lot of the things you watch or you take in. But when I say Mask of Zorro, instantly, I'm right there.
Yeah.
Identity, great movie.
Right.
You were in that as
Right.
well. Her, great movie. 13 Hours, incredible movie. And
Yeah.
so you be part of these movies that again that change the landscape. They become part of the public knowledge. I mean, don't sell yourself short, 2-season guy, because there's so many. I mean, I would imagine there's so many actors out there that work and work and work, and but they maybe never do that thing that's instantly recognizable, or that thing that's water cooler stuff, and you get to do that stuff all the time.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm not please don't mistake, I am not complaining about a darn thing. I am so fortunate. My friend, a good friend of mine from college likes to say, You got hit with a lucky stick," and I've gotten battered by that lucky stick, over the last 20 some years. I really am immensely grateful for all of it, you know? And the thing is, you just when you take a job, you have an idea of what it's gonna be, and you're never right, you know? I did this, miniseries about the Beach Boys,
Mhm.
probably 22 years ago now, um, with, Kevin Dunn and just a great group of young actors, and I took that job thinking, "Oh, this is just gonna be a money job," you know? I don't know anything about the Beach Boys. What's so great about them? And um, one of my favorite experiences ever was doing that miniseries. It was so much fun. It was so um, just a great group of dedicated people. I discovered this whole realm of music that I'd never thought about before, and I could go on about it, but it's just one of those things where took the script, I took the job, and you have this idea of what it's going to be. It's never that. It's always something else.
Mm,
So,
that's
you
beautiful.
know,
That's
yeah,
poetic. That's poetic right there. You're a
yeah,
poet.
uh,
From
I
Keith,
know.
because we just mentioned 13 Hours, which is again a great movie. From
Yeah,
Keith, he wants to know: did you interact with Ambassador Chris Stevens with his family for the role of 13 Hours?
I did not. They have after his death, they wrote an editorial. Believe it was, I believe it was for a California newspaper, which I read. Um, and I what happened to Chris Stevens was so traumatic, obviously, that I I didn't want to intrude on them with that, you know? Um, in terms of his role in 13 Hours, it's an important role, and I wanted to develop him as thoroughly as I could, so I did a lot of my own research, but I didn't I've played a lot of real people, and I'll talk to their families and stuff, and this time I just didn't feel comfortable, um, opening up that can of worms with them, you know? I mean,
Absolutely.
I never heard anything from them one way or the other. I don't know how they felt about the movie, but, you know, really respect him for his service the guy gave his life for the United States, so,
Yep.
um, um, I wish I could have done something more in terms of honoring that or memorializing him, but just did the best I could with the role.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense, and I think that's honorable thing to, some wounds, that there's some scabs you don't want to pick at that wound,
Yeah.
and yeah, like you said, fun fact is you've portrayed at least 8 real life characters, 8 roles in which
You've
you
done your
are.
work. Yeah, wow.
Absolutely, I could list them all for you too. But I'm wondering because if there's two things I noticed as I really scanned through the resume, uh,
Mhm.
bringing to life real life people, which I'm sure that as a whole set of challenges, different than your typical, picking up a character or role. The other one is you play just really great bad guys, just really, really legendary, really. So I have two questions. The first is what challenges, what change in the process do you have to do when you're accepting the role of a living human being, or a person that was a living human being?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you have to, there's always that balance of like, how much are you doing an imitation of this person, and how much are you just inhabiting the role as it exists in this particular fantasy, because even if it's a historical fiction, it's still fiction. And this um, Boardwalk Empire, for example, I played Joe Kennedy, the Kennedy family patriarch in his, his booze running days. And I had scenes with Steve Buscemi. Now, those two guys never really knew each other and didn't have that relationship. So it was purely fantastical. But I really did want to understand as much about Joe Kennedy as I could outside of the script, um, as possible, because I feel like you never know what's going to serve you. So with any of these people, who's a real person, either alive or dead, I try and do all of my research outside of any kind of conversations with them first. Um, and then if I feel like it's important, or if they're involved in the project, the Beach Boys, for example, I played Mike Love. He was involved. He was one of the producers on the project. So, I spent a lot of time with him, and he was great. But I ended up talking to a lot of people he knows and stealing a lot of his, mannerisms and moves and stuff like that. And so I'm someone who kind of comes at it from the outside in, and with the idea that always, no matter who you're playing, as a real person, they have to fit within that story and serve that role that serves that particular story. So, I have to acknowledge at the end of the day, some of these people might not be, or some of my performances might not be what you expect as that person,
Right.
but that's how I feel they behave or need to behave within the construct of what we're doing. It's complex, and I know, I'm sure sometimes, I've portrayed somebody who wasn't real happy about it. Um, I can think of a couple of times where I'm pretty sure that happened, but you just have to, you just have to do your job.
So in playing bad guys, we'll say fictional bad
Yeah, yeah.
guys, so not to upset anybody, but in playing bad guys, what makes you so good at playing bad? Like, what's your secret to just playing the worst of the worst, the best of the worst?
Yeah. I honestly think a lot of screen acting, or a major part of screen acting, is simply how you look and how you come across. I've often said I'm the guy with a punchable face, meaning like I can be, I can be genial, I can be, all kinds of stuff, but I really do believe a little bit, because of the way I look, there's like a sort of patriarchal, um, conservative, waspy kind of thing about me that makes people go, you know. I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up. I'm not trying to put myself down or anything. I just think people come across in certain ways. So I think that's part of it. But I think the bigger part of it is, you, if you try and back off of the bad guy's intentions or goals at any time, if you try and come off as nice in any way, if you're too worried about looking too bad, and some people are, you'll hear people who are the bad guys say, I just don't want to look like such a jerk, or I'm like, buddy, you are the jerk. This is what it is. That's the job. You're you're crushing people to get to your goal. You don't have the same boundaries as everybody else. You override all of that. And I think that basic idea kind of, serves me. And then the other part of it is, and this is, just classic too, is yeah, you have to enjoy it a little bit. You have to enjoy the cruelty a little bit, because if you're the bad guy, there's something wrong with you. you know, there's something not right up here. And so, however that manifests itself, you're invested. You're invested in the outcomes for the good guys.
Yeah, that's so good, man. And so okay, we've come to we got to talk about Flash. We got to talk about Reverse Flash because
Okay.
what a great character. What and you absolutely crush it. Um, I've always heard people say, when I'm playing the villain, I have to put my mind in that he doesn't think of himself as the villain, right? He's the
Right.
hero in his story. But I've always had the feeling, and tell me I'm wrong, that like Eobard Thawne, he like I say, I know I'm the villain, and I'm reveling in the fact that I'm maybe at one point he was the hero in his head, but like at this point, he just loves the fact that he's the torturer. I mean, is that how you play him? Do you think that character thinks of himself as a hero?
Um, no. I mean, I do think the character is actually pretty complex. Like I have pretty strong feelings about the character, and I think there is clearly it's in the name. It's what he has chosen is to be the reverse of everything that Barry Allen is.
Hmm.
So as good as Barry Allen is, he's that evil. And when I say reverse flash to people who don't know the show or the character, they're like, so like he's really slow or something? I'm like, no, that's not what we're doing. It's about his character, it's about his nature. And I think he's embraced that, and it has, there's been a psychotic break of some kind from whatever used to might have been his good side in his upbringing, and he knows that he's there to destroy. Um, but I do think it originates in this idea that he actually loves the Flash. He wanted to be the Flash. He wanted to be Barry Allen, um, more than anything. And he travels to the future and he finds out he's not going to ever be that, and it's what destroys him. And so there's the seed of he is everything I want to be. He's everything I am training myself for, learning for, is that. And then it's not going to happen. And so then he just flips and becomes the reverse of all that. And so I think that still resides within him somewhere. And so to say that this is truly a love-hate relationship, that's how I think of it. And the hate is what is guiding his actions overall, but I think the love is in the background there somewhere still. I
Yep.
think so,
Is
anyway.
it love or obsession?
Well, yeah, good question. Probably more obsession, yeah. But I mean, it started from the good place of
Right.
like, this is what I want to be. This is everything I want to be. This is my role model.
I always
And
think
then, uh,
if he I'm like telling you the character, but the way I interpret it is that like once he realized I can't be the Flash, I can't be the Flash, and I can't beat the Flash, then I'm gonna be if I can't be better than the Flash, I'm gonna be the worse than any of the worst, right? I'm gonna be the
right,
biggest villain you've ever faced. If I can't be the best version, I'm gonna be the best worst version.
right,
And I
right.
just I love that. I love that. Like one way or another, I'm gonna be the best. It's either the best at being the best or the best at being the worst. And
Yeah, and I think he feels somehow personally snubbed by Barry Allen or whoever is the Flash, that he was personally, after all that preparation, not chosen, and it's just very personal.
mm,
It's a very personal thing.
yeah. And
That's
you've done in the books. I mean, it's 7 episodes of Flash, 14 episodes on Legends.
mm.
I'm curious, how glad are you that the costume is not like comic book accurate, right? That you're not in just this lycra spandex. When you first put on the costume, were you like really happy about it? I would assume, because it's not a good
Oh,
look.
I love my Reverse Flash costume. Yeah, because in the early seasons of the Flash, there were these kind of distressed leather, really dope costumes, and these guys are in much more comic book accurate costumes for these last couple of seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm in the middle of the season-ending arc on the show, and so I was there for about a month shooting, and those things are tight. They are tight. They're thin, and they've improved them in lots of ways. Those leather suits are pretty inflexible, but it just looks so damn cool. I don't know. I love that suit. I loved it so much.
It's a very like heavy metal goth, version of the
Yeah,
speedster suit. I like it. I
yeah,
I
yeah,
I even though I'm a fan of the hero, I much prefer your costume versus the typical spandex. It leaves
yeah.
nothing to the imagination, which isn't a good thing.
No,
It's
no,
just
not at all.
I can't
Not
imagine how they tuck and have to pad certain areas, but that's their problem.
it's yeah, that's right, that's right.
uh,
I'm not gonna say anything about that. I'm gonna, leave that to everyone's
sure.
imagination.
When
Who's Patty there?
when you first got the role of Thawne, um, was there an initial commitment to it? Did you know, like, wow, this is going to be, 7 episodes of Cross Time, 14 episodes of Legends? Was it more or less? Was it a short thing or a long thing commitment?
I was told, at the time that it would be a long-term commitment, and, but not a, like, you're gonna be in every show kinda thing. It's like, "Oh, we're gonna have you back lots and lots," it's an important character to the show. And the first few seasons I was there a fair amount, and I did a full season of Legends, which was unexpected. I didn't see that coming. It's one of the great things about playing in those CW shows is they're all sharing the Arrowverse for the most part, so you can be on almost any of them. Um, and then I think they're you know t- I should I say I share the role with Tom Cavanaugh, but it's really Tom's role. I mean, I think that's why he was initially brought onto the show. So I think a combination of that and me getting Narcos Mexico made it more difficult to bring me back, and they probably just wanted to narrow it down, to one guy. So Tom Tom usually plays him now. I got to go back on Legends this year for a couple of shows, and I'm back on the Flash right now, and that's super fun. I'm so glad to be back. I always wanted to come back to the role, um, but it wasn't. The initial offer was, we want you to play this role. Here's what it is. It's really important to our show, and you'll be back. You'll be back lots and lots. So as it's great to be back right now, but I really do. I've given a lot of thought to this role, and this guy, and I'd always kind of hoped to, sort of play around in some sort of origin story or something like that. And who knows, maybe the character will get it on the show. There's some rumor about that happening next year. They don't tell me anything. I have no idea. Um, but I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the time I have had on the show and with that role, and especially grateful. It's a good group of people, really good group of people. But most of my stuff, almost all my stuff, has been with Grant Gustin, who plays the Flash, and I just think he's just terrific in every way. Just so perfect for the role. Very talented actor, and just a very kind and welcoming human being. So, I've got nothing but good things to say about the Flash and and Eobard Thawne, believe it or not.
I'm sure. And I think you have a distinction too. Unlike a lot of characters, you've died on screen so many times, so many
Yeah,
times.
yeah,
Like I was curious. I started googling like characters on TV shows that died a lot, and you get like Kenny from South Park or Homer Simpson.
right.
It's usually a lot of the animated guys. They don't show Eobard Thawne any love. I mean, this guy has died and come back more than most characters.
Yeah.
What's up with that? We gotta get you on some of these lists, man. Like
Well,
show some love.
that does tend to be kind of a defining characteristic in the it's not that special in the Arrowverse.
Right.
Like, Sarah Lance, the character who's played by Katie Lotz on Legends.
Mhm.
I mean, just on one episode she was on with me, she died like 10 times, so
Very true.
there's, You're not that special if you've died,
Uh,
a handful.
although your deaths have been some, I mean, quality,
Some
quality stuff.
spectacular deaths. Yeah,
I mean, you're
yeah,
ripped to shreds and like lost into the ether, and the special effects are incredible.
yeah.
And you did mention, like I was very shocked to see you come in last week in the episode, and I know you'll be on a couple more. Um, has it been? I'm curious, what has it been like for you to play a very different version of Eobard Thawne than we've seen in the past?
Really fun. Um, I mean, you're gonna see what's going on with him, in short order, but, to have this kind of entire personality reset and to have an actual romantic relationship on the show, was not something I thought I would ever see with the character. So I I had a great time, They gave me a lot of fun stuff to do, and, The Flash has always been a show with a big, big heart, and I've always appreciated that about it. So to be able to sort of take part in that and, not be the flat out psycho all the time, has been kind of fun. And, uh, yeah, I just to work with, Qasr Muhammad, who
Right.
plays Fast Track, New Speedster. She's terrific in that role. I just, yeah, it's been fun to play this Eobard Thawne.
Yeah.
I look, I am the last person who's gonna be able to tell anybody which Eobard Thawne is from what
Which one is
planet,
which?
time, or the future, or the past, or I mean, I am having been away from the shows this long, like, I don't know all of the different Eobard Thawnes that are out there, so I just take the one that's in front of me, focus on that, and, enjoy it for what it is.
You couldn't tell from the outside. You couldn't tell that you hadn't been here the whole time. You just couldn't tell. You slip it on like a comfy pair of slippers. I love it.
Fun.
Uh,
Thank you,
uh,
thank you.
I'm curious what your kids, having grown up with you playing these roles. I mean, your kids knowing that you're in the DC universe, of shows. Were they fans? Did they hate you because you're the bad guy? Where'd your kids fall into it?
They don't hate no, I think they were my son, I remember when I got the offer for The Flash, I was I was just gonna think about it for the night, and he was 11 or 12 or something like that. He's like, "Dad, you gotta do that. That show is so cool. You've got to do it." And, and so I took it and I did it, and I did it for a couple of years, and I remember talking to him about it after a few years, and, I was like, I think I was going back to do another episode or something like that, and I was like I might have asked him how he felt about that, and he's like, "You ruined the show for me, years ago, so, uh, that I don't care. Go ahead, do you." So they're both excited, and at the same time, when dad shows up on screen, it doesn't quite have the same effect as it does for maybe
Yeah,
everybody else.
that it takes you out of the believability when you're like, yeah, I watched that
Right.
guy eat breakfast. It's not
Exactly.
not
Yeah.
so
It's
scary.
not that scary, trust me.
um,
Yes.
and I will say that your character, Eobard Thawne, has had such an effect on me. I saw you appear on an episode of How I Met Your Father. You're the innkeeper,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Funny.
I immediately hated him. Just immediately. Nicest guy, had nothing to do with anything, but I was like, he's shady. I don't trust him. I don't
Yeah.
like him. So kudos that your character has now supplanted into other realities that I don't
Yeah,
like them.
definitely he's probably the thing I'm best known for at this point. Even after, like, 3 seasons of Narcos, it's like, uh, online, certainly in the socials, it's like everybody calls me Eobard. Nobody calls me by my actual name. I think, it's definitely what I'm best known for. But, don't discount the theory of the punchable face. Some of that is just my face.
Fair
The
enough.
innkeeper had a punchable face, that's all.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I do think too that I think this kind of stuff works well to a fan base that's very vocal. You're
Yeah.
going to hear them more than you might hear that Narcos fan base. I always think of like the Sons of Anarchy guys. They're like, yeah, I love the show, but they're not going to be on social media and tweeting out all this stuff and things as like us comic book nerds are.
Yeah. I being on the show last week was really fun. I mean, I looked through Twitter after the show aired, and there was so much great feedback, and yeah, so much support, and uh, you know, welcoming comments, glad to have you back, stuff like that. It just, you get a nice little serotonin boost from reading stuff like that. It's fun. It's really fun.
Very nice. Now, I mean, we're coming up to the end of time. I'm curious, you want to do a quick like lightning round, a couple questions, and then we'll call it a
Sure,
night?
yeah, if anybody's got some, yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do this. What's a common misconception in your industry, being an actor, that you think?
Um, I would say the thing I referred to earlier actually is that, if movie stars are are divas or jerks, and I would say it's actually the opposite. The leads, the big movie stars that I've worked with are usually some of the hardest working people on set. And because generally speaking, you don't get to be that person unless you're really, really good at what you do, however you do it, but you're good at what you do, and you treat people well and you work hard. People don't like to work with people who are jerks. So I think, it doesn't always work this way, um, but I think as we sort of referenced, movie stars are people too, just
Right,
like us.
right.
Yeah.
Heath wants to know, who do you think's faster, Flash or Superman?
Well,
I'll let
Flash. I was gonna say Flash. I mean, Flash is he's got to be the fastest, and Reverse Flash is as fast as him, so they're the co-fastest.
There you go. There's good.
Same.
Okay. Keith wants to know, boxers or briefs, but I'm not going to let you answer. We're going to leave some things a mystery. Some things are going to
Okay.
remain a mystery for the
Yep.
sake.
It may not be either. Who knows?
That we might not want to know certain answers. What's something that you've done that you're super proud of? Maybe it didn't get its fair shake, or something that you wish more people could see, or that they should go back and see. Something you've done.
um, I, something I mention a lot is a show I was on. It's actually was my first Greg Berlanti show. He's the guy who produces The Flash, and it's called Eli Stone.
Hmm?
It was on for 2 seasons. With Johnny Lee Miller as the lead and a great cast, Victor Garber and Natasha Henstridge, and just a bunch of people that we all loved each other. We really loved working together, and it was such a weird little show about this lawyer who has a brain aneurysm that causes him to see things, see visions, and the entire first season, each vision was accompanied by a George Michael song. It was such a bizarre idea for a show, but it really worked. It worked in a really big way, and I think it holds up. I would advise people to go find that
All right. You have
wherever
your
you find.
assignment. You have your homework, people. Go out there and watch it.
Yeah.
Couple more. I noticed you don't do a lot of convention appearances, things like that. Have you ever had any? Like, what's your craziest fan interaction you've had?
I mean, I've done some. I've done some conventions. I did what I think is like sort of the mother of all conventions. Not San Diego, which I guess is like
Oh yeah, the Mecca.
the Mecca, but Dragon Con in Atlanta. I went and did that, which is a massive, and it's not only huge in scale. You're doing these talks to hundreds, if not thousands of people, but it's also going 24 hours a day. I mean, you go to Dragon Con and at 2 in the morning in the lobby of your hotel, they're doing some kind of cosplay fashion show. It's like just a 72-hour blitz of fantasy con, and I loved it. I had a great time. I would do more if it ever came up.
Yeah.
Um,
Any
uh,
crazy fan interactions? Anything memorable moments? Tattoo a face or sign someone's face or anything like that?
No, no, I've never been asked to sign somebody's butt or anything. It's always been pretty respectful. You know, the thing that's always crazy to me is the artwork that people will bring you. I mean, people spend a lot of time drawing your character with your face on it and bringing it to you. I mean, that always surprises me. I have a bunch of that stuff that I really love.
Hmm. Okay. Any franchise or IP that like you could just no auditioning, you could just jump into it. Star Wars, Harry Potter. What would be like that one fantasy thing that you would just love to jump into? That
Oh my god, I would have loved to have been in the Lord of the Rings. I mean, I loved those movies when they came out. I've always loved those books. I've read them, probably 4 or 5 times. I'm not like Stephen Colbert level of like, recall with the
right.
story and the characters, but I when the movies came out, I just had such anticipation for them. And I actually auditioned for them. I did audition for Legolas, which obviously came nowhere close to that role, but that would be the one in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Love that.
I mean, who even got that part? No, nobody knows that guy. He's some
Orlando,
some
some
guy. Some guy got
oh,
it. I mean, aren't
yeah.
they? They're doing like a prequel, sequel series or something like that, man. You gotta
Yeah,
gotta get
yeah,
on
they are.
get on there.
Yeah, I'll have to try and work that out.
Reject. My people will get in touch. We'll work it out. We'll work it out.
Yeah, please,
Um,
please.
this Matt, this has been the most fun I've had in so long. Thank you so
Oh,
much for
yeah.
this conversation. I want to give you the last minute here. I know you're not a big social media guy, but you are out there. Can tell the fans where they can find you, where they can follow you, anything you want to promote, anything you got coming up? The floor is
Well,
yours.
we got yeah, I'll be on the Flash again this week, tomorrow night, and you can hit me up. I'm at Matt Letscher on Twitter and real Matt Letscher on Instagram. I do participate a little bit and enjoy seeing the feedback. And that's the biggest thing for me right now. Yeah, I mean, is coming back with this role and getting to play with all these people again. So I'm enjoying that. I'm living in that moment.
Yeah, enjoy it, man. It's a ride. You got to enjoy it. Guys, we're going to toss to a short break. This has been the incredible Matt Letscher, the reverse Flash himself in the flesh. We're going to toss to a quick break, and we'll be back with more right after this. Say goodbye, Matt.
All right, everybody.
All right, guys, we'll be right back.